I believe that we need genuine lyrics. I believe that we need genuine stories, even love.
How do you write a song about contentment in Arabic pop? Not joy, not heartbreak, not resistance, but stillness. Palestinian singer Lina Makoul has spent years exploring that question. Her latest single, Radia, which means being content, doesn't follow the genre's usual emotional arc. There's no dramatic chorus or sweeping declaration, just a quiet affirmation of presence, gratitude, and survival. Makoul is part of a growing wave of artists who are reshaping what emotional honesty sounds like in Arabic music. From her songwriting challenge with Palestinian teenagers during the pandemic to her ongoing solo work, she's found ways to turn reflection into rhythm. Welcome to Tarab, a new podcast from the National in Abu Dhabi that explores the Middle East dynamic and evolving music scene through interviews with some of the region's most compelling artists. I'm your host Saeed Saeed, and in this episode, I speak to Lina Makoul about what it means to feel content and why presence, not perfection, might be the most radical message of all. You're back with the new single Radia, a really interesting composition. It's invigorating, it's up-tempo, it has a summery vibe, but if you dig deeper into the lyrics, it's a quite emotional song, and it really talks about finding peace after tragedy. Can you please just tell us about that and how you got to that, how you found that message within that song?
Yes, so Radia, basically in Arabic, to those who don't know, means content and grateful. And I've been finding myself trying to find this balance in the past 19 months with everything that's been happening to every Palestinian, maybe every human being on planet Earth that is actually connected to their feelings and to what's happening. Trying to find this balance between giving in without giving up, which is, I believe, is contentment, which is being like saying Alhamdulillah for what you have, being grateful for the things that you are blessed with, such as a bed, such as a roof above your head, such as having food in your fridge, having your beloved ones next to you, and not losing yourself amidst everything that's happening. And this is exactly it. Like, this is my kind of, like, usually I make music that helps me go through what I go through. And this song kept going in my head all the time. Every time I feel like something is not working out for me, I would be like, أنا راضية شو ما صار فيا بعرفني محمية بنهاية النهار. أنا راضية شو ما صار فيا بعرفني محمية بنهاية النهار. Which means I'm content with whatever comes. I know I'm divinely protected at the end of the day, when the day is done. So yeah, that's my mantra.
Lina, there's a growing body of work that's being released now by Palestinian artists, directly influenced by what's been happening in Palestine, particularly in Gaza. I had a great conversation with The Synaptic not long ago, who released his album, and that album was recorded during the peak of the battle from October onwards. And then you have Faraj Suleiman, wonderful Palestinian pianist, also releasing work. How important for Palestinian musicians, right, is the art that you're doing now in terms of helping you cope with the painful situation, and perhaps what the music can kind of give many people who are kind of struggling to articulate what they feel in this particularly difficult time?
So it's funny you mentioned these particular artists who happen to be good friends and people I spend time with, and we talk about our responsibility towards our people and in being just how we express ourselves through our music is a coping mechanism for everybody else. And this is why I think it's so important for artists to just find this a little, like this small ray of sunshine, of hope in what they do, and believing more than ever in art as a reflection of what's happening, so people can actually understand what's happening around them, how to cope with their feelings. To put, يعني in Arabic we say نحط النقاط على الحروف, which means to just be clear about what's happening. And I believe that so many people in Palestine have been feeling Radia so deeply. They say that it resonates like so deeply in their souls because that's exactly what they needed to hear at this moment. And me, someone who's been finding Radia as salvation for my ongoing, like my day to day, I feel like this is my responsibility towards my people.
What I find particularly interesting about Radia as well is I'm interested in the type of lyricism that's being used because a lot of the times when you're talking about Arabic pop, like and maybe I'm generalizing, but what I've been seeing a lot of the time is that there's not a lot of nuanced lyrics talking about mental health. Because this is really, at the end of the day, Radia is almost like a mental health type of song, which I think is very important. And I think I haven't seen a lot of that. I mean, I've seen that with Synaptic because Synaptic, his last album, he talks a lot about the importance of talking about his ADHD, talking about depression, like bringing these subjects which are often taboo in Arabic society, bringing it to light. And by talking about it on the record, it encourages other people to talk about their situation. And I think this is also Radia kind of follows that by you talking about it's okay to feel a certain sense of pain. It's okay to kind of feel confused, but finding contentment within that is important. Do you kind of feel that these types of messages, like to talk about a person's mental health, which is yours, is kind of what's needed and perhaps we haven't seen enough of in Arabic contemporary music?
I totally agree. And that's one of the reasons why I commit, like, my healing journey is intertwined with my art. And I believe that I missed having this in my own language, in my own dialect, as a teenager, as a kid, as a grown up, as an adult. And I feel like this is my responsibility because I believe that art shapes the consciousness. Like, if you don't consume art, it's very easy for you to become a robot that just repeats what the system wants you to repeat. And I believe in liberating the minds and in liberating the souls and in liberating the heart because that's my way. Just stand in front of the system. That's my way.
Yeah, and you were saying you have been missing those messages in music, in Arabic music. Why do you think there has been a lack of that message? What do you put it down to, in your opinion?
Let me think out loud with you. But I think if we go back in time to the classic Arabic golden era in music and cinema, like Arabic music and cinema was one of the most profound and deepest ways to to explore love and agony and all kinds of feelings, correct? And if we go back to Kulthum's text, and if we go back to Fairuz's text even, it's just beautifully said and it shaped generations of everyone in the Arab nation. But I believe that through westernization and the West going so deeply in the systematic, I want to call it brainwashing because it is a brainwashing, something went missing. Like if I go back to even the 90s, like Amr Diab 90s, Najwa Karam 90s, there was something very light about life. It helped people romanticize life. And maybe we could have romanticized life back then, but I don't think it's okay to keep romanticizing life with everything that's happening, especially in the Arab world. And as an Arab nation, it's about time. I think we're also like so late. We just need to unite and we just need to have a very honest reflection of what's happening and how can we actually make a difference. Like, it's so hard for me as an artist, as a human being, to just see how people stand aside and just watch what's happening, and all they can think about is let's post stories about it, which are getting shadow banned, and only the people who are posting the same things are seeing what they post, which is at this point, in the beginning it was so necessary, but at this point I don't feel like it's necessary, and I feel like we're stuck in this loop of just trying to be informative. And I believe that it's time for Palestinian artists in Palestine to just collect their thoughts and collect their feelings and translate them into works of art that can get and reach people all over the Arab world and the world in general. Because one of the most beautiful comments I've been getting about Radia is that people who don't even understand the language say that their soul actually did understand what I was saying. And this is my mission in making my art through sonic and visual, let's call it patterns.
It's interesting when you're talking about taking people's stories and perhaps translating them into art, because you've literally done that with the 2020 album Yom. And I remember that was the last time I interviewed you, and I was so happy and so interested in this project. So just to explain to the listeners, Yom, and the title is hashtag Yom, which is hashtag YOM. You created songs using lyrics from Palestinian teenagers collected via Instagram. Okay, so you took those lyrics and you kind of crafted them into songs. And those songs really spoke about everyday life. A lot of the times when you hear Arabic pop songs, it's about big grand emotions, the big love, the big heartbreak. These songs almost are like little micro insights into everyday teenage life, in Palestine. Whether it's hanging out with your friends, going for a walk, there's so many interesting things. Tell us a little bit about that process, and how did that perhaps help you to craft your own songs, like Radia and many others that kind of went after that?
I think this project was one of the most important projects I ever did, although it was the only project that I didn't even think about in a commercial way. It was during COVID, the pandemic, and I was so sick of only baking and posting like baking and cooking videos on Instagram. And I felt like I'm not making use of my time. Like I'm not benefiting and no one is benefiting from my useless videos. So I just posted a story asking my followers to just send me original texts and that they wrote. No standard is being requested by them, just whatever. And every day I would challenge myself, choose one message, one text, edit it and compose it and post it as a song. And I didn't even think that people would find this to be so needed, because suddenly we were talking about, like, as artists we try to explain so many things and such big subjects and simplify them and complex subjects, but sometimes people just want to focus on the small moments that life brings to you. And seeing the world through Palestinian teenagers from different parts of occupied Palestine suddenly seems like, oh, although we, I don't want to say enjoy, but although we have different privileges, we get to experience different forms of occupation, we still share the same small little moments in our everyday lives. And as Palestinians, it's not only about the occupation, it's not only about being victims of oppression, it's also about being human beings with hopes, with hearts, with stories, with different points of view, and sharing them with teenagers from Gaza, people from Al Julan al Muhtal, the Syrian occupied Golan Heights, 48, the West Bank. So it's just having everyone under one roof without it having to be even commercial, without thinking about numbers. And this is actually my whole process since I became independent, fully independent in 2019. I committed my work to not to numbers, but for me to feel like I'm being represented by my art. That if you, Saeed, listen to my music and watch my music videos, you would be like, I feel like I know Lina's soul. And I don't need to just judge who she is based on her Instagram posts and stories and her PR campaigns.
Was there a particular set of lyrics during the process of creating Yom? Did you come across a particular set of lyrics really that really affected you?
Yes.
In terms of not only emotionally, but in terms of artistically, like in terms of wow, I could write lyrics this way, like perhaps a way of writing lyrics of describing things that perhaps you never done before.
Honestly, in terms of songwriting, all of them opened up something. They rewired my songwriting brain in a way because like people who wrote this didn't even know how to write songs. They don't come from an industrial background or from a musical background. They just feel and they express themselves through words. And that was just something beautiful to experience. It's a beautiful craft. But having the text of بيجي عبالي, which says بيجي عبالي وقف هالزمن لكم دقيقة.
Can you just describe what's that song about in terms of lyrically?
So lyrically, it says, I feel like stopping time so I can focus on what the universe has to offer. بيجي عبالي وقف هالزمن. Take deep breaths and just be present. And it resonated with me on such a deep level when I opened that message. And it was COVID. And I realized that even though my whole life stopped, I'm not traveling, I'm not busy going to the studio and creating, suddenly I'm at home with my parents, with my siblings, something that we didn't get to do for so long. I'm getting to just meet the people they became, and I'm not even present. And then having this text made me like, it changed my consciousness. I'm like, wait, I need to stop for a minute. And then realizing that the person who wrote this text, she was like 23, I believe. She was becoming a vet. And she just came back from a chemotherapy session. And she saw my challenge on Instagram. And she decided to write me this. And after realizing that this is where her lyrics came from, fighting cancer, I realized that, wow, these super simple lyrics and combination of words can resonate with so many people on so many different levels. And it's just something that we shouldn't wait for a disease to take over our bodies in order for just to be present and realize what we have. And now that I'm talking about this, might even be like a very big stone in creating Radia afterwards. Because that was the first time where I was actually present and thinking that, okay, maybe through a song that lasts 2.5 minutes, I can keep people present in what they feel and how they feel it.
It also shows as well what that process for me of the listeners inspiring you with their own lyrics, it also tells me what these listeners want or hope to get from their artists. They want to get these messages of taking time out to be content. They want these messages of that basically promote mental health, to be looking after yourself. And again, it's like it seems to me sometimes I feel there's a very big disparity in terms of what the listeners want, in terms of just the subject matter and what they're being given by major pop artists. In the sense, like how many times can you talk about how much you love a person? You know,
True.
when there's so many other things going on. I'm not saying I'm anti-love songs. Please, we need more, and there's a timeless art form. But I'm talking about the need for balance.
I believe that we need genuine lyrics. I believe that we need genuine stories, even love. Like, I feel the need to find a love song in Arabic that actually represents all the complexities that we go through when we love someone. The need to be loved. And I just feel like we miss on such big potential into reshaping the next generations in the Arab world, and also just showing the world, showcasing how we think and how deep we actually are. And I believe that through artists that are very genuine with themselves and don't lie to themselves and don't want to lie to their fans and their listeners, I believe that this would encourage other artists to just take this path.
Talking about showcasing, you recently joined fellow Palestinian artist Saint Levant on his Dira World Tour.
Correct.
You performed across Europe and North America. What was it like collaborating just with a double bill? Two amazing Palestinian artists that are that are out there speaking their truth, singing their truth in front of an international audience. And I guess how important is that, do you think, as a statement artistically and for you personally as an artist as well?
Oh, it was such a beautiful experience. Beautiful experience. First of all, Marwan Saint Levant is a very good friend of mine, like in our personal lives. So he gave me a call in like last year before the tour, and he was like, "Bro, I'm going on tour for 3 months, and I need someone who would actually be like someone I like being around. Would you please join me?" And I'm like, "You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let your manager speak to me. Let's do it." And just sharing the stage with him and just seeing and witnessing what's been happening in the world outside of Palestine, it charged me in on so many layers that I can't even explain. Being in Palestine is a whole different reality. The second I leave Palestine, I'm like, oh, okay, this is real life. But then when I go back to Palestine, I'm like, no, this is real life. Everything else is a delusion. And just seeing so many activists and so many artists in heart attending the shows and making them like some kind of a movement and some kind of a protest, it was so different than anything I've ever done before. And the embrace that you get, the spiritual embrace that you get, is you can't compare it with anything else.
Which takes us back to what you were saying at the beginning of the interview about the responsibility of Arab and Palestinian artists right now during this particularly difficult time for the region.
So true. And the fact that Marwan actually brought someone from Palestine, that's something that everyone should do, because we all know that Palestinians in the diaspora, they can create differently. They don't create out of survival mode. They don't create just to keep something behind. Our nervous system is not built the same way. But the second someone who's been having it, I don't want to say easier, but it is easier, because here in Palestine, like, you need to spend at least 10 years, sorry for what I'm going to say, but working your ass off to just for someone to just realize that, oh, wait a second, something is happening there. It takes at least 10 years. But being in the diaspora, you get to enjoy how it should be done, the natural way of building an artist. And suddenly when you get that embrace, you just feel unstoppable, because it's not about boundaries anymore. It's not about not having an infrastructure for an industry. You stop relying on an industry. And that's what we do in Palestine. We just rely on each other, on collaboration, on vision. We have to do everything ourselves. We have to manage ourselves. We have to book our own shows. We have to creatively direct ourselves. We have to fund everything we do. So yeah, it's a different kind of responsibility that I would love for other diaspora artists to just do, with not just Palestinians, also Lebanese, also Syrians. We don't enjoy the same qualities in a country that actually has an industry and has so many creatives who do what they do for a living.
That's right. I wonder, though, if there's any, I guess, positivity that can kind of come out from this tragedy of what's happening in Palestine. Do you think now is a time where perhaps a lot of Palestinian artists are getting the kind of attention that perhaps they didn't had in a long time? There's a whole new generation now who are kind of, I feel, because of what's happening right now in Gaza, they want to know more about Palestine.
Oh,
They
yeah.
want to know about artists. So, like, do you feel now perhaps it's a great time to be a Palestinian artist, providing, you have something interesting and honest to say?
Well, inside of Palestine, it's a bit tricky to say that. It's not a great time to be a Palestinian artist or a Palestinian. But for everybody else, I think there is a shift, a major shift that's happening, not only for artists, but for every Arab person in the world. Because for the first time, we're not being immediately labeled as terrorist or as, I don't know, radicals, extremists who just want to, I don't know, whatever, what Hollywood has been picturing us for so many years. For the first time, we feel like people are doing their research and they want to understand what is actually happening, because for the first time, they've been seeing from Gazans what's been happening in Gaza through their phones and not relying on big media outlets. So suddenly they realize that it happens also through art, and it happens also through journalism, and it happens through anything independent in the region. I've been traveling a lot in the past 2 years since the war started, and it's just magnificent to see what's been happening with Arabs all over the world. And the pride that everybody feels, because it's been taken away from them for so long, for so many years. People feel like they're unseen, unheard. So yeah, unfortunately, what's happening in Gaza is, I don't even have words to explain what's happening, not only in Gaza, in the whole region, but Gaza in particular. But because life is all about physics, if you have extreme darkness, you must have extreme light. And that's what I believe in. And that's Radia. And that's the conclusion about Radia and about the music video. I wanted to show what it's like to feel like you're running away from the system, which is being represented in the music video by the car, by the walls, by the everything the occupation puts, and running away, but then realizing that, wait a minute, if I keep running away, not from them, but running towards something that I believe is gonna happen, doesn't matter if I know what it is, just believing, I might find myself although it might feel spiral to me to be running in the spiral movement, I might be actually getting to a higher position. And maybe while running, I will meet my community in different parts of the world. And my community doesn't only have to be Arab, it can be any person in the creative or activist global community that is woke and sees the world for what it really is and not the brainwashing that we are taught. And maybe after that, we can move as one. And maybe when we move as one, we become a movement. And when we become a movement, we can control fear and we can look it in the eye. And then we can control the pace that we walk in instead of running away from a system. And then maybe the system would be balanced, because there is no light without darkness. And that's what I figured out while working on Radia and the music video, is that we cannot eradicate darkness. No matter how hard we try, it's gonna suck the light out of us. So I'm not gonna play that game. I'm just gonna make sure that my light keeps shining and that it attracts more light so we can become a whole sun that can make darkness feel a little less strong and a little smaller.
Lina Makoul, thank you very much for joining us on Tarab. That's great. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Saeed.
That's all for this episode of Tarab. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check in next week to hear from our next featured artist. Yasmin Al-Taji is our producer, Dua Farid is our editor, Arthur Edison is our audio engineer, and I've been your host, Saeed Saeed.
لو معي ملايين لو قلبي مش حزين